I forgot to ask actually about the audiobook section of stuff. I think what was it like to record your own book? And you said you kind of got to hear your own self back for your own book. I mean, what's that process like of recording your own book? That must be quite a surreal feeling.
3 lessons. Okay, I'm trying to do 3 lessons.
Yeah.
Okay, hear me up, kids. Lesson number 1 is long. My friend told me you can do it, and maybe you want to do it because obviously I host 2 podcasts, not 1, 2. So people hear my voice a lot. Added bonus to be able to have it in the audiobook. People will say, oh yeah, I'm going to actually get the audiobook because it's fab reading again. So I enjoy that. So it takes so long. It has its benefits, especially if you are a podcaster or somebody, even a singer, even like an actor. That's why a lot of them say, enunciate them all themselves and record it because it just makes sense. So it's a lot of work. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, lesson number 2, I got one. You need to have a lot of really terribly tasting kind of throat candies and everything, water. You really need to almost over prepare because you think it's going to be fine. I did 12 hours in 2 days.
Wow.
Bless the producer and I were BFFs, but also I think sometimes he rolled his eyes because I would repeat the same thing because sometimes I didn't get it. But apparently we did it really fast. I think it's because of the commitment. But it takes so much and you have to over prepare. We had I couldn't go into a studio. I decided obviously to do it myself. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And we're like, we need to create a home studio now. And I was like, oh God, you can't see my house, but my house is small. So the kitchen / studio / dining room / living room / office had one little section with like muffly, obviously you're a musician. It has all the little soundproof elements, a super mini box, little muffling elements. It was crazy. Like all the duvets came in. It was insane. So over prepared is 2. And 3, the third lesson that I learned, it was more a teaching, I guess, or a skill, I guess. It taught me how important it is to be able to present yourself and also, the way that you talk, especially in podcasts or anywhere else. We assume that it's fine. And don't get me wrong, I speak really fast. I'm Italian. So I always have had, since 8 years ago, my first ever public talk, I always had to slow down because that has been always my main issue, especially when I was nervous. Now I'm not longer nervous because I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been talking in front of 1,000 people. I'm okay now.
Wow.
Better, maybe not perfect, but still I can go into that talking a bit too fast, not taking enough breaks. Sometimes, you cannot know how to pronounce something. You kind of slide the word in. I've been doing that. Again, I'm a foreigner as well. So sometimes I struggle. And this book really taught me how much of a difference it makes when you can actually take the time. So I'm getting better and it just makes the whole experience better. Obviously for an audiobook is essential, but also when I'm doing interviews now, I know that I, take a bit more of my time. We talked about silence actually in our chat that I had with Giorgio, which you can also find on our podcast, by the way. So if you want to listen to that one, that's a good one. Forgot about that. But the silences, the way you pronounce things, the cadence and everything will make a difference. And until it's beaten onto you by recording for 12 hours and the producer saying, can we do the one again, please? Can you be a bit more passionate? Can you be a bit slower? Can you say this again? Yeah. It's literally the best boot camp ever. So that was the biggest lesson. So definitely 1 is a lot of work. 2 is come over prepared because you'll need it. And 3 is going to teach you so much about how to be a better host, a better presenter, especially when it comes to speaking. Even more so if it's only audio. If there's no video, it adds even more to that. So it was a great experience, but woof, a long one.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's incredible, though. And I've heard of obviously authors getting someone else to read their own book for them, which to me doesn't make sense because it's your book. You should know. You mentioned cadence, obviously, as well, and how to say certain things. I mean, did you at any point think about getting someone else to read your book for the audiobook, or did you always think, I'm going to do my own book? This is me. I want to do it.
The publishers kind of stirred me because of obviously the lack of studios. They stirred me into, choosing who was going to read it for me. Like what is the dialect? What is the accent? And I was just like, no, just went. I asked my friend again, as I said, and she said to me, you can do it, but it's going to be long. Then, as I said to you, thinking about, I have 2 shows, people are used to my voice. I'm going to ask and I'm going to try and push for it and see how much I have to fight. funnily enough, they were like, okay, well, if you want to do it, then then they put me in touch with the production guys. But I was the only 30% of me that thought maybe I shouldn't do it myself, is the fact that I was doing so much already. You know, on top of my 2 companies, I also work with clients, I consult. So I was writing. So there's a lot of stuff that I was doing. But I thought, well, again, as you said, I can, because again, I'm not necessarily massively introverted. I also like to be able to, you know, be on camera and talk to people and do podcasts. So naturally, I know that I can present my book the best way. Not everyone feels comfortable with it. And I think in that case, it's fine. You can have somebody else read your book, because you want obviously to come across as engaging as possible. You want people to get to know you through that. And it's really hard. I've listened to audiobooks from a handful of authors that were not that good. Usually when the authors read it, thumbs up. Couple, I was just like, you just don't want to be here. I know you don't. I can hear it in your voice. It's okay. So it was very minor at the back of my head. What are you, especially when I was setting up the blooming home studio with again, duvets and anything that was around the house. I was thinking, what am I doing here? But I just know that for my particular instance, it was the thing that made the most sense. What I would say again, which we kind of briefly said a few times, it is so much work that not everyone will feel up for it or will have the energy to do it, especially with everything else around you. So I appreciate not everybody does it, but it was pretty much given that if I could, I would have done it. And so I did it.